Never fear of missing out by clicking that subscribe button and becoming another member of the Babylonian family. Good day, Babylonians. My name is Songs of Rays, and people keep asking me, am I back with another build to bring to you?
But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Thanks, John. That's right, this is the John Wick pistol build that I have managed to piece together just to be able to bring to you that's something that's different from what's already out there on YouTube. As far as I can tell, there are no viable pistol builds out in Outriders at the moment, and for good reason. The pistol category is by far the worst category that's in this game, and I have a massive hate for sniper rifles, and even so, sniper rifles have a much better use than they do in terms of the sidearm category. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what makes this so good. We're going to find out what pieces you need to be able to make this as competitive as possible, and then just be able to have a little bit of fun and just mess about with everything that's in this build. Now, is it going to be top tier, CT15, better than the DPS build that I've made that came out on Friday? No, it's not, but it is still going to be competitive. It is still going to be a whole lot of fun, and it is still going to be able to hold its own, and it's definitely a lot easier to use than the cannonball set that I made as well. So keep your eyes peeled, let's go through the pieces and have a look into what makes it so good right now. Now, to start off with, we're going for sidearms. We're going to have a quick look as to what makes the sidearms, what makes a good choice, and what is actually viable or not. Now, we've got, when you look into the sidearm category, we've got two different categories within that as well. So we've got our dual pistols, and we've got our revolvers. And there are a couple legendaries for each, and they both bring different kind of stats to the plate. What I settled on was the Bolt and Thunder. Now, the reasons why behind this was, one, because the mag size. Now, mag size is hugely important in this build, and that's because we want to be able to boost up the 50% that we're going for our top tree build as much as possible, so we actually have a lot of ammo to mess around with and have a play around with, and this basically gets us up to around about assault rifle levels, and it's quite nice to be able to have like about 51, 52 bullets in the mag, just to be able to have a shoot around with, miss a few if we need to, but also have those backup bullets, because it's not going to take one bullet to be able to kill an enemy, it's going to take a few, and it also works really nicely with toxic lead to be able to replace 40% of that magazine, which is huge. It's almost like about 20 bullets every single time you get a kill. Now, the reason why I didn't go for revolvers is I did do a bit of testing with the revolver. I went for the Lucky, and I also went for the Disintegrator, and both of them have a magazine size of 6, and then that gets bumped up to 9, and in most cases you would think that 9 bullets on such a high damage profile platform, because each of them has around about 9 to 10k in terms of weapon damage just by itself. The range is a bit pitiful, the accuracy isn't technically there, and also it really punishes you hard if your blighted rounds ever do run out when it gets to that. So 9 bullets is not normally enough to be able to take down some of the enemies when you factor in the fact that you're going to be missing, and also toxic leg is only going to give you back 3 to 4 bullets into your magazine, so it's not going to be enough to be able to sustain for a long period of time, and that's why I feel like the automatic pistols or the dual pistols are the best way to go about with this. Now, when you look into the tier 3 perks that these guns come with, the Bolt and Thunder with Strings of Gorse is probably the best one that you're going to be able to find. The reason why is because this deals a little bit of extra damage in just an area of effect. It affects multiple enemies, but it doesn't do enough to be able to affect your killing shots so that you are constantly replenishing your magazine. The other ones that we've got are the Torment and Agony, which have an on-reload effect, and even though the Torment and Agony is probably the nicest looking dual pistols that you can take in, unfortunately that tier 3 mod, because we're not looking to reload, is just pointless, and that becomes a dead mod, and that is the last thing I want to do to be able to make a build that's actually kind of competitive, and don't have the space to be able to just put a dead mod randomly onto there. So I went for something that did a little bit of damage, and I do think that this is probably the best way to go about it, but feel free to experiment. I was able to do 1,000,000 points of damage in a single critical with the revolver and the Lucky, but the trade-offs just aren't really there, and it's a shame. I would like to be able to make a revolver class, because I do prefer a revolver over the dual pistols, but it's not viable at CT15, so I would only recommend that you go for these if you're looking to do lower challenge tiers. So let's dive into what you're actually here to see, and that's the armor mods and the combination that we've gone for. So, as with always, the Behemoth mask is my main go-to for when it comes to any kind of firepower build, and this is my bonus firepower, close range damage, and long range damage kind of boost on there, and it has the tier 2 mods of Bloodlust, where killing shots increase my firepower by 17,505 and stacks up to 3 times, and mitigation from death, where killing enemies while aiming down sights increases my armor by 45.6k for 10 seconds, and this also stacks up to 3 times. So this is going to give a nice DPS boost to the pistols, and it's also going to give me a nice survivability bonus as well, just to be able to make sure I can deal with any enemies that do rush and get into my face. As for the chest piece, we've gone for the Robe of the Borealis Monarch because Icicle Storm is such a good mod, and it just pairs with pretty much any kind of build that you kind of go for, as long as you're using Cold Snap. So this goes bonus firepower, status power, and long range damage, so we're boosting up our damage even more. Killing enemies while frozen by the skill for Icicle Storm makes them explode, dealing 252,004 damage in a 5-meter radius, and this obviously does then cascade, so the more enemies that you kill within a short area, the more explosions that happen, more damage that gets dealt. This is always a great mod for just any kind of like crowd clearing, any kind of like little guys that are just going to kind of walk around, whether they be normal human enemies or whether they be Perforos. It's just such a good mod. I would highly recommend this on any build. And I've gone for tier 3 Sharp Eye, where killing enemies while aiming down sights grants us another 16,000 firepower for 20 seconds, and this also stacks up to 3 times. And then the reason I've gone for this is because the pistols automatically roll with a lower firepower than any assault rifle or any of the main primary guns, which I do think is a little unfair, because that always kind of hampers them for the fact that they can only get to low 70,000s, I think. I don't think they can go much higher than like 72, 73 K in terms of firepower. So that's a massive 20k firepower that's instantly lost, even if you compare 2 gold rolls. So we need to be able to boost that firepower up as much as possible. So I do think stacking Sharp Eye along with Bloodlust allows us to make up for that and actually deal a lot more damage. Moving on, we've got the Trousers, where we've gone for bonus firepower, long range damage, and cooldown reduction, so we can get our Blighted Turret and our Cold Snap back a little bit faster. And this I've just stacked on every single toxic boost, so Euthanizer and Radical Therapy, so we can get an extra 25% and 15% damage to any enemies inflicted with toxic. And this is kind of vital, because going for the Blighted rounds, it's almost like a staple that you need to be able to inflict more damage to toxic. So the first bullet always labels them up with toxic and just starts applying a small status to them, and then every single bullet that's after that just massively increases from your skill build and from these mods, so it is highly recommended that you pick up these mods altogether. For the gloves, we've gone for Gauntlets of the Cannonball. This was just the easiest one for me to be able to use, because it did roll with Captain Hunter, which is what we want. We want to increase our damage to elites by 25%. The damage that pistols have already put out is already on the low side, so we might as well increase as much damage as possible to be able to take out elites, rather than just deal with all the little guys altogether. So that goes with bonus firepower, cooldown reduction, skills life leech, so a little bit more survivability, a little bit quicker on the cooldowns, and also boosts up our firepower as normal. And I've put Sidearm Specialist on this because we want to, it's the only perk that actually specifically increases sidearms. There are a few other things that you could potentially put in there that might be able to boost up your firepower, and you could potentially, if you ever did use a different class over a Techno to be able to try and pull this off, like maybe a Trickster, you could go for like close range bonus instead and actually make this a bit more up personal. But that's what I went with. This was just to trial it out, and this is what I found the most success with for the time being. If I ever do find any updates, I will happily pin a comment in the comment section down below, so just have a check on there, just see if there is anything more from myself. And lastly, we've got the boots, where we go for bonus firepower, long range damage, and cooldown reduction. And this one, we put Toxic Lead on there definitely because we want to be able to replenish our bullets the more we go, and because the pistols deal so little damage, you're not going to be one-shotting anything in this game, so therefore you are able to get that one shot for the Blighted rounds to inflict toxic, and then the second follow-up shot, if they're a smaller one, will then finish them off and replenish 40% of your ammo, which, as we've already established, would be around about 20 bullets, maybe a little bit more, and be able to just give you a bit more sustained fire. I've paired this with Critical Analysis for the time being, where it increases our critical damage by 15% when we've got Blighted rounds on. Looking back on the gameplay, I feel like that one could be replaced with something else. Like I said, I still found success with it. The gameplay is testament to that, and it was still able to do a gold CT15, and it was really, really nice against the elites. But you could potentially get away with something else there. I'm not saying this is the most ideal mod for this build, considering that the sidearms don't exactly have the best accuracy when it comes to this game, but you can't go wrong with it. So that's what I went for, and this was basically my build for it. So of course we've gone for Top Tree to be able to increase our weapon damage. We've gone for armor piercing, We want to decrease the long range as much as possible because these are pistols and they don't have much range to begin with, so we need to widen that window where we're able to do our most damage, but also whereas it counts with the damage bonus towards long range as well. So we've gone for that. We've gone for as much as we can to inflict extra damage to enemies inflicted with toxic, and then as we've gone down, we've gone for toxic inflicts invulnerable. We didn't have a spare point to be able to increase how much damage, like the vulnerable status itself, which is a little bit of a shame. I would have liked to have put that in at some point, but I think everything else is just kind of essential. We had to increase our health by 10% just because that's the next node to be able to get down there. After using class melee skill, increased damage mitigation by 40% is kind of pointless. We're not planning to use our melee, and it's just purely a means to an end to be able to get to that sidearm adept, where we increase our pistol and revolver damage by 12%. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the skill tree, I'm pretty happy with the skills that we're taking into it, and I'm fairly happy with the actual gear build that we've gone for. And I do think this makes it the most competitive, and I do think this actually allows us to be able to do something different with Technomancers, to try different guns out, and if anything can be done, if we can do all of this with sidearms, I think that basically means we can do it with any kind of gun that's out in this game. Maybe apart from SMGs, I think SMGs kind of cut off a bit too soon before the long range damage kind of kicks in, which is a bit of a shame, but it just opens up the world of possibilities to whatever gun that you find, whatever legendary you're happy with, you can potentially make work with a top tree Technomancer build. So that pretty much wraps up what the build actually entails, what it actually is made up of, and that just leaves to talk about how the actual playstyle of this build goes compared to everything else. Now, when it came to the ultimate firepower Technomancer, it doesn't actually matter too much because you literally can melt everything before anything really gets up to you and gets in your face. Whereas with this build, you do not kill things as quickly, it's just a bit more sustained. Your fire is... It's a bit more concentrated, but at the same time it allows enemies to actually close that gap to you, and there will be a couple of times where it will be a bit close and you probably will get hit. Now, this isn't the quickest, most efficient build out there to be able to do a CT15. This is purely out there to make the game a bit more fun and to show some other guns a bit more love that have kind of fallen by the wayside or are waiting for some kind of buff to be able to come their way to make them a bit more viable. I've always loved the sidearm subclass that's in this game, and ever since the demo I've always wanted a Torment and Agony, and then once I got them I was very disappointed as to how they were able to compete, or they weren't able to compete in the actual game, especially when you boosted up the world tiers and especially when she got to endgame, and it's a bit sad, it's a bit disappointing because that was the most sought after legendary back when the demo was a thing, and just because of how versatile it was and how fun it was to use. This build is not designed for team play, to be honest with you. It is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, and I had a great time making this and actually was really happy the fact that there is a build out there that can do a gold standard CT15 kind of expedition run that's out there, but it's in terms of team play, it just does not compete. It just doesn't really put the damage output there that you need, and it's just kind of becomes a bit of a meme at that point. At which point I would suggest that you swap over to the Ultimate Firepower Technomancer. I will put a link down in the description below so that you can find your way to there. But if you're looking to do solos, this is a lot of fun. I would highly recommend that you pick up the mods. I'd highly recommend that you keep an eye out for the gear and just have a bit of a mess about. Even if you try it with a revolver and just see how like those damage numbers pop up. Like I said, I've seen one like a crit that happened on a crawler to get to 1 million, and that's just from a single shot from a revolver, and that does more damage in one shot than my burst assault rifle. That's 95k Earthborn assault rifle can actually manage, and that to me is just insane, and just makes me think, if pistols were able to get to 99.4k firepower, how much more damage could we actually do with them, and how would that actually make them a bit more viable? So I'd like to know your thoughts. Is there anything else that you would suggest that could be changed in this build? Is there anything else you wish I could add? Is there anything, maybe it's just a comment just to say yes, we should have the sidearms back up to 99.4k firepower just to match the actual guns that we take out into the field. Why can't we actually have it there? Why can't we just make them a bit more viable and make it so they're a lot more fun to actually use rather than just be frustrating? And that brings us to the end of the John Wick build that I have brought to you today. And no, don't worry, no dogs were harmed in the making of this. Nothing inspired me in terms of an animal getting hurt to be able to make this video for you. So I hope you've loved the gameplay that's in the background. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please drop us a like and subscribe. It will mean the world to us. We are pushing for that 1,000 subscriber mark just to be able to get ourselves monetized, make the channel just as great as it possibly could be, and then bring some more content your way, whether it be Outriders or whether it be some more games that are down the line for you. The giveaway for the 200 sub mark is still in effect, and this runs out on the 26th of July 2021. So get yourself subscribed and just drop us a comment in the section below on any of our videos in the same time period, just to be able to get yourself entered in on that. Because we have hit 300 a week after starting the giveaway, I've convinced the guys that we're going to be dropping another runner-up prize of £10 or €10 or $10, whatever the currency is in your area, for the same store credit as well. So there will be 2 prizes now up for grabs, and I may be able to speak to them and try and get another prize every single 100 subs that happens in the exact same time frame as well. So if we get another 100 subs and we get to 400, I'll drop a 3rd prize in there, and then we'll keep it going and do it that way. So good luck, and make sure that you subscribe and make sure you comment. And as always, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you on the next video.